Hey Andrew, how's it going?
How you doing? How's
Good.
Texas treating you?
It's good.
Good.
So I'm doing Lawn Care Millionaire episode this month, and I've asked Andrew Potoshnik, who, if you know my last name, is obviously my brother, to join me. He has a company in Miami, Florida, and they basically help make lawn care companies, landscape companies, design build companies a whole lot of money by helping them grow through the web. Basically, he's really figured out online marketing, and I used to do all my own online marketing myself and turned it all over to his company, his agency. They handle all of it for me now. And so I thought I'd have him join me, and I'm going to answer some of the questions that I've been receiving, and I thought I'd just have him help me out on this call.
Thanks, Jonathan. As he said, I'm Andrew Potoshnik. We are related, and I have a website called Lawn Care Marketing Experts. We are a lawn care agency. We focus on online marketing for lawn care companies. And so we kind of both have our own group of people who follow our each respective websites. Jonathan has one called Lawn Care Millionaire, and he focuses on a lot of the business aspects of lawn care companies, staffing, marketing, obviously, that's a huge part of your business, and everything in between. So we thought since we do get a lot of common questions, we thought that we would start doing some of our monthly calls together and just recording them. We're doing a FaceTime here and just kind of give you guys a window on thoughts and our advice on some of these different topics. So why don't we get started? Yeah.
Yeah, so I gave you a list of questions, so why don't you run through some of those and let's talk about them.
Sure. Well, the first one I have here, I'm not sure who it's from, but the question is, you may have answered this previously, so I apologize in advance if it has been asked and answered. In one of your videos, you said a major pet peeve was no one picking up the phone in the office. As a one-man operation in year one, this is keeping me up at night. For most of the year, I can forward the calls to my cell and handle it. Customers can be called back in a timely manner. However, when my direct mail goes out, even being spaced on different dates, I don't see how I can avoid missed calls because I'm already on the phone with a potential customer. I realize it could use an answering service, but most people seem to hate them. Even if I hire someone part-time for the spring rush, I still worry about missing calls. Any suggestions? Thanks. This is a good question.
Excellent.
We've actually both had this conversation to each other before. We both bitch about it. I bitch about it a lot. My customers, I have an online marketing agency, so my customers pay me good money every month for my team to get them found online, to get them new leads through their websites and everywhere else. So it always bothers me when I'll call a client or somebody on my team will call a client, their main office number, and nobody answers the phone.
Yeah.
And the first thing that goes through my mind is you're paying me good money every month to get you leads. And I'm calling your main office number and nobody's answering the phone. So I can only imagine how many people are calling from your website or from your pay-per-click ads or any of the other marketing that we've done for you that is being squandered. You're basically throwing that money out the window because nobody's there answering the phone live. It might not sound like a huge deal, but the statistics are 70% of the people who call you who don't get to a live person on that first call, they're going to hang up. They're going to call somebody else. They're not going to sit there and call you back. They're not going to call you back. They're going to call somebody else. And so if you look at it in that aspect, you're basically telling, when you're not answering your phone consistently with a live person, you're basically telling 7 out of 10 people that call you that you don't want their business. And I think that's a big deal. This is a crucial thing that you need to implement and make a point to really focus on. And there's a number of different ways to do it. Yes, some of them cost money, but especially when you're a small company like this guy, I can definitely relate to that. But it's important. Just remember that statistic. 70% of the people who call you and don't speak to somebody right away, they're not calling you again. 70%. That's big.
Yeah, so let me interject and say that so I've surveyed my clients, and I we asked them, it was a really in-depth survey, it was 2 pages, which is generally not something you should do, but it worked out really well for us. And we asked our clients all kinds of questions. Why'd you choose us? What do you hate? What did you hate about your last lawn care company? Just all these questions. And some of their answers fit right in with what I've perceived when I used to do selling on the phone for my lawn care company. And you'd just not necessarily ask, but you'd hear what clients were complaining about and why they're switching to you. And the one you hear all the time is, oh, they never call me back, or I called them and it took them 2 days to get back to me. They aren't generally directly saying that they didn't answer the phone when I called initially to see if they would take my business. Nobody says that as a client, but you hear all the other little clues, like they never call me back, they never answer the phone, all these other. Well, when they call you and they're a prospect, you've just cemented in their mind or confirmed in their mind that you're just like all the other lawn care companies. And this, my theory on this for residential especially, if you take the top 10 complaints about lawn care companies not answering the phone and not returning calls is in the top 10. Definitely. It's probably pretty high up the list. So when you don't answer the phone, you're confirming in that person's mind that you're just like all the other lawn care companies, which is exactly what you're not trying to do. So let me expand on a couple things Andrew said as well, that this is why this is so critical. So there was a really good statement at the bottom of that question, which I totally agree with, and that is that most people hate answering services. I couldn't agree more. I mean, that is a dead-on accurate statement. But
you got to do something, even if you're a four-man crew. You got to do something.
Yep. I agree. So I completely agree. But I also say at the same time, who cares? Because at the end of the day, when somebody answers the phone live, even if they're an answering service, generally another human being isn't just going to hang up on that person. People are generally not that rude. And if they're the kind of person that just immediately hangs up, then you probably don't want them as a client anyway. My point here is that really what you're going for in the answering service is to capture the name and address and phone number. That's what's most important. As Andrew said, you've spent all this money to drive leads to your business. Now you're just going to let them, you could burn the money, as Andrew said. It was completely pointless. So you have to at least capture it. Even if you can't take the call, you got to capture it. Yeah. They're hang up on voicemail and you've confirmed in their mind that you don't answer the phone. Well, what if you at least capture their name and address and you call them back in 15 minutes or 20 minutes or 30 minutes? You've at least now got a shot. The alternative, you have no chance. So yes, they may hate it, but they don't really. It also depends on how you set up the scenario. So let me expand a little further. Yes, they hate answering services when they call the answering service and the people on the other line sound like complete schmucks and don't have the faintest idea what fertilization means, and they're reading from some script. That sounds terrible. That's embarrassing. But that's not what you're going to create here. All you want them to do is you want them to answer the phone and say, hi, this is Mary with whatever your company name is, and how can I help you? And that person will say, hey, I'm interested in service. And they'll say, Mary, I'm so sorry right now. Everybody's on the other line. I can have somebody call you back in just a few minutes. May I get your name, address? You just ask a couple questions. They don't have to say, hey, this is Mary. I'm representing your lawn care company. I'm the answering service. I mean, the way you solve this problem is you restrict the answering service to only be able to say certain things. Yes. You don't let them try to be too helpful. And if pressed, you let them say, yes, the full phone's just rolled over to if they are pressed that it's an answering service, don't have them lie. Just say, yes, phones, they're all on the phone. They have a number of phone lines. It just rolled over to us. I catch all the overflow. They are, right now, a lot of new clients are signing up. And I'm probably getting a little too long-winded there, because what you really want to do is you want to keep the answering service saying as little as possible. Just being super friendly, super helpful, collecting the information and getting it to you.
Exactly right.
Here, one more thing, so I don't forget to say it later. The real challenge in answering services, like, for example, I still have an answering service in my business to this day, and I have a full office team, but we still use it as rollover. And we do exactly what I said. We limit what they're allowed to say. And they don't try to be too helpful where they end up sounding dumb. So what I want to communicate here is that The reason I'm with the answering service I'm still with is not because I think they're great or I'm very happy with them. They've actually deteriorated over time. I'm with them because they're one of the only answering services I can find that'll record my phone calls. And so if you're looking for an answering service, see if you can find them that'll return it, because here's what happens.
They email you a transcript? Is that how you're using your particular phone service?
We emailed the MP3. We actually listened to the call.
Okay, they email you an audio of the call.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
very good.
So here's what happens. Yes, again, I agree, feel the same way. Answering services generally are not overly good. Let's leave it at that. They're very disappointing.
And the choice between that or nothing, that
is
answering services win hand down. I mean,
hands down.
You will collect a ton of leads. You'll still collect a ton of leads versus the ones that you were going to collect when you weren't answering your phone, which is
exactly
zero.
So how do you solve the problem when you have an answering service that does something dumb? If you don't record your calls, you never know they did something dumb, even against what you had advised. So if you record the calls, when you listen to that call, when you listen to that call, you can hear the inflection in the customer's voice, a prospect in the customer's voice, the frustration. You can hear all that. So the first thing you do when you call them back, maybe they didn't know it was an answering service. They thought it was your company. You can call back and you say, hey, I am so sorry. We have a backup answering service because we want to answer every call live. You were talking to an answering service. I heard how the call was handled. That is not the way we work. I just want to apologize up front because that's not the way we operate.
Very good approach.
And how can I help you? And that is, in my mind, the big savior in the whole using an answering service process. Is the thing that will save your company over and over again is your answering service might be great 90% of the time. You want to hear the 10% of the time they're not, so you can get ahead of that problem. And so so that's jumping a little ahead and talking about this, but this is a big deal. So because I agree, I think the big fear is they're not going to do a good job, so I shouldn't have one and waste the money. I disagree. There's ways to handle it and be creative about it.
So let's go a little bit further. I mean, if you're willing to pay bucks, you can get an answering service that you can provide them with a detailed script of your services, information about your businesses, your costs, and they'll even accept credit cards on your behalf, plug them into your website and process orders. I mean, what do you think about a service like that these will run, couple hundred a month, but they would really take advantage of a detailed script that you provide. And they would even accept credit cards. What do you think about relying on a phone service to process some of your orders?
I think if you find the right one, it works. We have a whole bunch of Service Autopilot clients that do that. What they do is inside Service Autopilot, they give limited, they can lock down what the users are allowed to see in Service Autopilot. So they give the answering service a login or multiple logins to Service Autopilot, and they do exactly that. They can even schedule work. But I mean, at the end of the day, that does cost more money. But it also keeps a person off payroll, which is huge. Yeah. But it does cost more money, but it's the same thing. It's just like hiring employees. It goes back to training and finding the right one. When you find the right answering service and you find the right people staffing it that you can work with, in those cases, I recommend that if they have 60 people at the answering service, you have a group of 5 that handles your calls. That way they can be properly trained.
And they'll be familiar with your business, your services, the script. Yeah. No, I think that's a good point. And also, you have to monitor it. So I think your point on recording the calls is very important because you really need a way to monitor it. You don't want just a name, a phone number, an address. Obviously, that's the whole point of the call. But you need to make sure that every aspect of the business, of your business, and this includes your phone people, since they're the first line of contact with new leads, that they're representing you, your company, the way that you want them to. And really the only way to do that is through recording the calls. So I think that's a really good key here when it comes to choosing a phone service.
Yep. So I think 2 levels, 2 ways you can approach it. One, just a basic service that you're going to pay some number of cents per minute to answer the phone. That's instructed to say very little. They're essentially just capturing name and phone number and hopefully address. That way you can have a price if it's residential when you call them back. And then, or take it a step further and let them log your phone calls and look at your calendar and do some of those advanced tasks, but expect to do a little more training and spend a little more money to do that. But both work, but you have to manage it, be creative about it.
Yeah. And going along with that, I I would really stress that I think it's important that they, well, not only can't capture their phone number, that's a given, but I think you should also always capture their address as well, unless it's an existing client that you already have a relationship with, calling you about they need something, they have a problem, or they need an additional service or something like that. If it's a new lead, I say always capture their address when you have them on the phone. So you can obviously give them an estimate based on their lot size, but also, especially when you're in a situation like this, when you're relying on a phone service, there's going to be scenarios where you call somebody back, one or two times, and they're just not answering your phone. So you've captured a lead, you've captured their phone number, but because you were relying on a answering service to collect their information, you couldn't make that sale right there on the phone.
That's exactly right.
And so I think it's really important that you collect that address as well. Then you can follow up with your multi-step mailers, and then if you can't close them over the phone and you do reach them, at least you have something to follow up with, which would be the multi-step mailers to their actual address. So I say always get the phone number. If they're not an existing client, if they're a new lead, get the phone number and address. Always do it.
And I'm glad you said that. A tip here from learning about this. So in the early years of my lawn care company, I used to work the phones and go out and meet the clients and do the estimates. I talked to everybody. That was what I did. I sold the work. And we had the answering service. And back when I used to listen to some of the voicemails, I would hear our existing clients calling into the answering service, and the answering service would be, so this was after we limited what the answering service was allowed to say. So what I would hear is, I'd hear Miss Smith call into our company over a 2-day time period. And each time she'd call, the answering service would say, may I please have your name and number? And what's your address, Miss Smith? May I have your phone number? And you could just hear the clients like, look, I mean, I'm a customer, and they just were, it's frustrating to keep giving the address.
Yes.
So one of the questions that you might have the answering service ask is, are you a new client? Or better said, I can't remember it's been years now. I don't remember what we say, but it might be say something like, Miss Smith, are you a client? Or Miss Smith, something along. You don't ask if they're a new prospect.
Right.
Like, I'll give you an example. At Service Autopilot, our software company right now, as crazy as it sounds, we haven't put the answering service in place yet here. And so our order of priority is we always, and this sounds crazy, but our business is different than a lawn care business. We always take care of existing clients before new clients. So that's a little contradictory to what we're talking about, but I think it's a very important concept. At the end of the day, our existing clients need to be way better cared for than a new prospective client, if we have to choose. So
especially when you're small. That's a good point.
Yep.
When you're a small lawn care company, you've got to focus on maintaining your existing customers, obviously.
Right. What made me think to say that is I think the wording needs to be not, are you a new client? Or, sometimes I hate the language in marketing ads that say for new clients only, because it always kind of degrades the existing client. So I think the verbiage, the language here needs to be such that, Miss Smith, are you an existing client? Or something along the lines of acknowledging your clients first, not new clients. And then if they're not, and they say, no, I'm looking for service or whatever the case may be, then that's when they ask for the address.
Exactly.
So you want to keep the call script almost identical, except for once they identify new client or not client, the only thing that disappears from the script is they don't ask for the address. That's easy to train, but that one little annoyance taken out of the answering service is a really big deal.
Yes. Yeah. And that's an excellent point. And something I just want to reinforce is don't just set up a phone service. Don't just set up an answering service and leave it. You need to monitor it. And you need to record your calls, but you need to monitor it. You need to monitor the people answering your phone. They are representing you. So if they're representing you poorly or unprofessionally, that is the first impression that you're going to give any new lead. And if they get a bad feeling from your phone staff, if your answering service is rude, if they're annoying, whatever, they're going to think that about your company as a whole. And I think that's my last point. Did you have anything else?
No, I think we've covered that one. It's worth the money. Oh, let me say one more thing. Because I understand younger companies, or everybody's worried about money, bigger companies too, but younger companies especially. You can be creative about this. You can set up a minimum number of minutes with an answering service, and you can forward your lines to it. In our case, our phones automatically roll to the answering service after 3 rings. And so because we have a whole office team that's trying to grab the call, and we generally answer the call, but if it happens to roll answering service, it'll do so after 3 rings. It's not ideal, but it's there for a backup. My point is, you have some control with the phone company of at what number of rings it's picked up, if the phone's even forwarded to the answering service or not. And that made me think of one more thing. I'd recommend you have a real, true phone number that you control, and that number forwards to the answering service.
Yes.
That way, if something bad ever happens, you still maintain control of your main phone number. But where I was going with this is, let's say that you're trying to be careful with money. You can always not forward to the answering service. You could turn that off. So you could have it there and you could only forward during certain times of the day, or you could only forward when you have marketing going out over a time period. I'm not saying that's perfect, but this is a way you can manage your budget. At least have something.
I think some viewers might not know how this is generally billed. Usually there's a monthly fee or there's a per minute charge is pretty typical. So I'm not sure if they know how these answering services generally work.
Right.
But generally you're charged per minute. For the most part, you're charged per minute. So continue. I just wanted to interject that.
So that's all I'm saying. You're charged per minute, and oftentimes you agree to some 100 minutes a month or some minimum. And the more minutes you agree to, the higher or the lower the per minute charge you pay for minutes over that amount of time. Exactly. You're buying down your rate. And so all I'm communicating is that if you buy a small number of minutes and you want to manage them, you can turn off and on and off the forwarding of your phones to the answering service and predominantly use it during just certain times of the day, or use it just during those weeks or months when you have a lot of marketing going out, or in the prime selling season. That's not my recommendation. It's just a way to manage money. In the early days of our company, when we didn't have a big office staff yet, I hit $1,000 a month at times for my answering bill, but I was also bringing in tons of new clients, so it was well worth it. And now it's $100, $200 a month max for roll phones that roll over. So you can manage this, and it's not all or nothing.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the next question.
Yeah, I think that was good. We should actually do a call. At some point we should go into depth. I mean, this is a very important topic. Like I said, I mean, this is your first impression on new leads, and your office staff will be dealing directly with unsatisfied customers. So something that we should think about doing. I know I've written a lot about it. We haven't released anything yet, but we should probably have an in-depth conversation about just phone, the way you should handle your phone in your lawn care business. We'll do that down the road. But this is a very important topic. I think that was great. Basically, answer your phone, people. Yeah. All right. Next question. Jonathan, can you explain your marketing system from purchasing, delivering to email, and what companies do you recommend working with to make this easy? Also, do you have a marketing manager? If so, what are his or her daily tasks? This is a good question. If you want to start on your marketing process, I'll chime in on the online marketing stuff since we handle that for you as well.
Okay, so I've talked about this a little bit in prior videos. So it just depends how advanced you want to get with your business in terms of what a marketing manager might do. A marketing manager might be somebody that actually, and this is going to be seldom seen in the lawn care industry, somebody that's actually writing copy and coming up with new pieces, things of that sort. I think what probably the more common scenario for hiring a marketing manager would be somebody that just simply makes sure that your pieces get out the door. When you get new clients, they get their welcome packages. When you get new clients on a street, they put together the marketing pieces that go out to the people on that street. When it's spring, they make sure all the crews have all the door hangers they need in their trucks, and all these other scenarios that need to happen in the business. They're actually just there to make sure it actually happens. And at times they might be putting stamps on envelopes and licking envelopes, and so it's not a very expensive person, but they can also go through a database of addresses and pull out the addresses you need to market to. They can do online reviews for you. They can do listings on the internet for you for internet marketing, not to replace an internet marketing company per se, but there's things that in any successful relationship with a agency like yours, Andrew, you need the company to participate in a major way. So this person can help in that level of participation. So this person's task would be to make sure things go out on time according to the marketing calendar. They could do things like coordinate with the designer to get a postcard and then get that to the printer, and then coordinate with the printer when things are going to be done. So that's their role. This doesn't have to be an overly expensive person. It's a person just to make sure things are happening according to the marketing calendar and that they're getting done. And then separate from that, because most lawn care companies don't do enough marketing to justify it, you'd probably outsource the writing of your copy, or you'd do some of your own, or you'd buy templates, or you do something to get generally the marketing you're going to produce, and then you tweak it. Yeah. And that's generally an outside person, outside activity. That's not what the marketing manager does.
Right. So they're not acting. They're definitely not acting as a designer, necessarily a copywriter, unless you just have those innate skills. But yeah, they are essentially that. They're somebody who gets it done. They get your marketing out. They get it out on time, and they quality check everything.
We're all too busy to actually get it done. So this is a person that is kind of that's their job. They're tasked with keeping you on task to, because they're going to come to you at times and say, hey, I need this. I need approval for this. I need to go to the designer, and that's their job. Yeah.
And my team, I mean, there's somebody on your staff at City Turf that we deal with that my team often needs stuff from you, new materials, whatever. We go to them. You and your partner are often too busy to reach, so we can go directly to them. They can get us what we need really quick, and we can keep that marketing engine running. And
to that point, when you go to them, and because I'm the one that writes the copy, I'm the one that does all the marketing, and in terms of the higher level stuff. So if they don't already have the piece, then they come to me. But at least now I was able to stay out of the process, and they came to me for just what I needed, and then they can bug me until I deliver it to them. Yeah. And that's their purpose. Their purpose is to make sure. That's what I tell them. Your purpose is to make sure I give it to you when you need it. It's okay to ask me 4 times. That's their job. That's their job, to go to the other people on the team and get what they need, because marketing is the number one, or in the very top of all priorities within your business, and that person's job is to make sure it happens.
Very good. Very good. Okay, so the question was kind of explaining your system from purchasing, delivering to email. So we kind of went off on the last part. Okay. was do you have a marketing manager? But it was kind of a two question thing here. So can you kind of go more in depth on your marketing system? I guess I think what they're asking is kind of, how are you getting clients? Are you doing door hangers at a certain time of year? You doing mailers? You doing email newsletters? You doing online stuff? That's what I think they're asking here. You answered the marketing manager part, but there's kind of a two-parter here.
So we're doing a little bit of everything. So I gave you a little clue into earlier. Actually, it may have been another call we talked about that, but one of the things I had mentioned was that we let the online marketing, because our online marketing strategy is so successful, drive where we end up serving clients, which streets, which cities, because those leads, you can't control where they're going to come from. So you get a lead through the web, you sell them, they live on a certain street in a certain part of town, and then so that drives online marketing. That online marketing drives the areas we serve, but we still stay within a focused area. And then print marketing drives building profitability and density in those areas that we now serve. And then to take it further, print marketing and email marketing and other activities, they then build the client into a more successful client by educating and selling them more. So initially we sell them something, later we sell them more. That's the relationship. Right. And so it's a combination of print and online. Online drives the market, print builds the market. Yep. And it also builds more transactions, more sales with the client.
And that's a great strategy. That's a great strategy to have. I mean, oftentimes I'll get phone calls at Lawn Care Marketing Expert where potential customers want to be in a very specific area in their metropolitan region. It's homes are expensive, or they think it's their ideal client or whatever. And one of the things that I have to explain to them is you can't control exactly where those customers are at when you're doing online. You can nail it down to cities in geographic areas, but at the end of the day, anybody can pull you up on the web. So it's not laser focused. And I think your strategy, we've talked about it before, but your strategy for using the more expensive, the print stuff, the offline marketing stuff, to really make your service areas dense, where you're doing less driving, less trucking around, is a very good strategy to have. So.
Yeah. And to answer what you were saying, that's the only way you can deeply build out a ideal market, a very wealthy gated neighborhood or a very specific part of town. You can only build that through print, offline marketing.
Okay. And why don't, how are you using, I know how you're using, but why don't you tell them kind of how you're using email marketing currently?
So we will do several things. So we don't only use email marketing. So let's talk about email marketing from the standpoint of a prospect. So they're not a client. So the goal is to capture an email address. Because if they don't buy from you, you want to always have a reason to stay in front of them and be the one lawn care company that stays top of mind.
Right.
So you need to create an email marketing system where it doesn't feel like marketing, like you're trying to sell, but a system where it's something they'd actually care to pay attention to, where you stay in front of them on a monthly basis, a couple times a month. That way, the next time their lawn care company screws up or something happens, you're the only other name that comes to mind. So it's kind of a drip marketing system where you just slowly stay in front of them through email marketing, but it's marketing, but not a hard sell, sales pitchy type marketing. So that's one step, is something that you orchestrate where you just stay in front of them.
Yeah, I like to say it's staying not in front of their face, but in the back of their mind.
That's the way I say it. That's exactly what it is. Okay.
Because they'll remember you if they have a current lawn care company and they screw up, and the first thing they're going to think of is, who else do I know? And if you're in their inbox every couple of weeks, then you're going to be who they think of.
Yeah. So you want to be top of mind. And so then that's an example of email marketing for a prospect, or a prospect that never bought. And then you have your email marketing for existing clients. And what that is they're now a client, you have their email address, and you're going to them with something of benefit. And sometimes that means segmenting your list. It means that, let's say you have 1,000 clients and you want to sell them on pest control. Well, you don't go to all 1,000 clients. You go to the 900 that don't buy pest control. Right. So one of the biggest keys to successful email marketing is how you communicate to your clients, what you say to them when you say it, because we're all fed up with email, we're fed up with spam, and you don't want to get turned off. Yep. So it's absolutely critical that what you go to them with is of value to them, not too often, and the right message. So we would use email marketing internally to go out to our clients to make an offer to the right clients of something that they might want. And then of all those clients that don't buy within X number of days, then we'll mail them something. Yep. And then of all those clients that don't buy from the mailer within X number of days, we'll email them again, but it'll be a different email than the original. So it's a multi-step combination of print and email, but we always go out with email first, because if you have 1,000 clients and you offer them something, it's much cheaper to find the 100 that are going to buy right off the top through email marketing. So you only have to mail 900 instead of 1,000. Yep. And then of those that, and usually people will respond faster to email than they will to print. So then it's good to follow up with a multi-sequence, multi-step campaign. You print mail them, or you mail them print material, and then you follow up and you email them afterwards. So that's an example of how you'd follow up with an email marketing system to existing clients to sell more work.
Very good. Sounds good.